The moving truck in my driveway was the first sign something was terribly wrong. I froze, keys still dangling from my fingers. This wasn't just any truck, this was a full-sized professional moving van with Monty's Moving Service painted on its side. A truck I never hired. A move I never planned. My stomach dropped as I pushed open my front door and witnessed the unthinkable. There, in my living room, stood my parents, methodically dismantling my life. Mom wrapped my favorite dishes in newspaper while Dad emptied my bookshelves, carelessly stuffing volumes into boxes. What the hell is going on here? My voice shattered the methodical quiet. They jumped like thieves caught in the act, which, in truth, they were. "Oh, Sophia," Mom said, attempting casual innocence. "We thought you were at work." I'm Sophia, 35, deputy CEO at a sports nutrition company. 13 years of relentless work, skipped vacations, and 70-hour weeks led me here. 3 years ago, I finally made deputy CEO. 2 years ago, I bought my dream home, 4 bedrooms, granite countertops, a backyard sanctuary where morning coffee tastes like victory. But according to my family, none of that matters because I don't have a husband or children. The "when are you settling down" questions began the moment I turned 30. Family gatherings became interrogations, with aunts cornering me at weddings, voices dripping with honeyed concern. "Your clock is ticking, Sophia." Clock. As if I'm some kind of bomb that needs a man to defuse me. At my cousin's wedding last year, Aunt Charlotte gripped my arm during the reception, her fingernails leaving crescent moons in my skin. "It's not too late to freeze your eggs," she whispered urgently, champagne heavy on her breath. The surrounding conversation hushed as everyone waited for my response. I smiled tightly and asked about her garden, but inside, something hardened. Here's what they refused to understand: I'm not broken. I'm not some tragic figure sobbing into ice cream about my empty womb. I'm living precisely the life I've chosen. My work challenges me. My financial independence grants me freedom. I've found peace that eluded me when I tried conforming to others' expectations. But explaining this to people who measure a woman's worth by her wedding ring? Impossible. My brother Marcus is 28. Last year, he married Celeste after dating for years. I genuinely felt happy watching them exchange vows. I even gave them $15,000 as a wedding gift, money representing months of my salary, sacrificed because I wanted to help them start right. The ceremony took place at our family church, where I'd endured countless sermons about sacrifice and putting others first. The reception downtown was perfect until the families started their usual performance. "Sophia, when are you going to settle down?" Aunt Charlotte asked, cornering me at the dessert table. "You're the only unmarried one left now." My mother joined in, champagne glass dangling between manicured fingers. "It's time you heard the sound of little feet in that big house of yours." I smiled and nodded, as always. Inside, I was calculating how many more hours until I could leave without seeming rude. These people treat my singlehood like a contagious disease, my contentment a personal insult to their choices. After the wedding, Marcus and Celeste moved into a studio apartment owned by our parents. Rent-free, mind you. Mom even asked me to help with utilities, so I've been covering their electric and gas bills monthly. I don't mind helping family. But sometimes I wonder if they see me as anything beyond an ATM, the perpetual bank account without a husband or kids to spend on. The first few months after the wedding seemed fine. Celeste would thank me for covering bills during our Sunday family dinners, ask about my work. I thought we were building something genuine. I should have noticed the way her eyes lingered on me when she thought I wasn't looking, calculating, assessing what else she might claim. Let me tell you about my house, because understanding what I almost lost illuminates everything that followed. I started working at 16, put myself through college, and spent 13 years climbing the corporate ladder. When I finally made Deputy CEO, I knew it was time for the home I'd dreamed of since childhood. House hunting consumed 6 months. I viewed dozens of properties, too small, too expensive, too far from work. Everyone said my requirements were unreasonable, but I refused to compromise. This was my forever home. When I found it, I knew immediately. For bedrooms, gorgeous kitchen with granite counters, a backyard perfect for morning coffee and evening wine. Safe neighborhood, close to work, everything I'd visualized. Signing those papers felt like crossing a finish line I'd been running toward my entire adult life. This was mine, bought with my money, my work, my sacrifices. Nobody could take that away from me. Or so I thought. I gave my parents a spare key when I first moved in. They'd helped with furniture, and it seemed natural for emergencies. They're my parents, after all. I trusted them completely. That trust nearly destroyed me. Our family holds Sunday dinners at Mom and Dad's, a tradition from childhood. We gather around the same oak table where Marcus and I once ate breakfast before school. Mom makes pot roast or chicken, and we catch up. Usually, it's pleasant enough. But lately, something had shifted. Celeste started making subtle comments during these dinners. Nothing obvious at first, just hints. She'd mention how cramped their studio felt, or how nice it must be to have so much space. She never said my name, but everyone knew her target. "It's so unfair," she said one Sunday, cutting her chicken with unnecessary force. "Single people get these big houses while married couples squeeze into tiny apartments." My parents nodded along like she was reciting profound wisdom. I pretended not to understand, but I recognized the strategy. She was planting seeds, setting something in motion that made my skin crawl. The thing is, their apartment isn't bad. It's small but free. They pay no rent or mortgage, just utilities that I help cover. Most young couples would consider it a blessing. But Celeste acted like they lived in squalor. I tried ignoring these comments initially. Family dynamics are complicated, and I didn't want to create drama over potential nothing. But the hints kept coming, growing less subtle each week. Celeste would sigh dramatically describing their apartment. She'd make pointed comments about activities I must enjoy in my spacious home. Marcus joined in too, mentioning future children needing room to grow. He'd look directly at me when saying it, like I was supposed to offer something. But I worked hard for my house. I earned every square foot. And I refused to feel guilty for having nice things because others made different choices. The worst part was my parents' reactions. They nodded and agreed with everything Celeste said, acting like I was selfish simply by existing in my own home. They seemed to forget I'm the one helping them financially. I pay Marcus's utilities. I contributed to their wedding. I've loaned my parents money repeatedly. Yet somehow I'm selfish because I won't apologize for the house I spent 13 years earning. The logic defies reason, but nobody seemed concerned with logic anymore. 3 months after these hints began, Sunday dinner felt different. Everyone exchanged meaningful glances, my parents, Marcus, Celeste, like they shared some grand secret. Celeste couldn't stop smiling, not her usual polite smile, but a triumphant grin barely contained. Marcus kept touching her stomach protectively. I'm not naive. I recognized the signs immediately. Celeste's pregnant, I thought, watching them exchange glances. They're announcing it tonight. I felt genuinely happy for them. Marcus has always been good with children, and Celeste seemed like she'd make a decent mother. A baby might even redirect attention from my singlehood. We sat down for dinner as usual. Mom had prepared her famous pot roast, its rich aroma filling the house. But instead of eating, Marcus cleared his throat and asked for everyone's attention. Celeste and I have some news, he said, taking her hand. We're going to have a baby. My parents erupted in joyful tears, though they obviously already knew. Mom embraced Celeste while Dad shook Marcus's hand like he'd accomplished something extraordinary. Congratulations, I said sincerely. That's wonderful news. But Mom couldn't resist undermining the moment. Well, at least one of my children is giving me grandchildren, she said, staring pointedly at me. I was beginning to think I'd never get any. I bit my tongue. This was their moment, not the time for confrontation about my life choices. I smiled and congratulated them again. That's when Celeste turned to me, her smile deceptively sweet. Actually, Sophia, we've been discussing something important with your parents. It's about our living situation. I stopped mid-chew. What do you mean? We all agree that our family's housing situation isn't distributed fairly. Marcus and my parents nodded in unison, like puppets on the same string. Celeste continued, her voice growing more confident. You live alone in that big house with all those empty rooms. Meanwhile, we're cramped in a tiny studio, and soon we'll have a baby who needs space. Okay, I said slowly, dread building in my chest. What does that have to do with me? Mom jumped in, her voice sharp with authority. Sophia, you need to act like a real sister. You need to prove your love for your brother and future nephew. How exactly? I asked, though the sick feeling in my stomach told me I already knew. You should give your house to Marcus and Celeste, Mom declared like announcing the weather. They need the space more than you do. I stared at her, searching for any sign this was a terrible joke. Are you serious right now? Completely serious, Dad added. You'd move into the studio apartment. We're even willing to make it official. You sign your house over to Marcus, and we'll sign the studio over to you. I looked around the table at their expectant faces. They weren't joking. They genuinely believed this was reasonable. No, I said, standing abruptly. Absolutely not. I'm not giving up my house. Sophia, Mom hissed, don't be so selfish. Selfish? Disbelief made my voice shake. I worked 13 years for that house. I saved every penny. I earned it. You're just an old maid who'll never get married or have kids anyway, Dad said dismissively. What do you need a house like that for? His words struck like physical blows. My own father, calling me an old maid. Marcus piled on too. You're being greedy, Sophia. Family is supposed to help family. Greedy? I laughed without humor. I gave you $15,000 for your wedding. I pay your utilities every month. How exactly am I greedy? That's different, Marcus insisted. No, it's not, I shot back. I'm tired of being treated like I'm less important than Marcus just because I'm not married. That's not true, Mom protested weakly. Really? Then here's a solution, I said, grabbing my purse. Sell your studio apartment. Use that money as a down payment and buy Marcus and Celeste a house. Problem solved. My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. We can't afford a second mortgage, Dad muttered. Then live within your means, I said, heading for the door. Don't try to steal my house because you won't spend your own money. I was almost outside when they started shouting. Sophia, you're being ridiculous. Mom yelled. Selfish. Dad added. Greedy. Marcus called out. I turned back one final time. I'm done with this conversation. I'm not giving up my house, and that's final. I left them sitting there and drove home, hands trembling against the steering wheel. When I walked into my house, I looked around at everything I'd sacrificed for. The comfortable couch I'd saved months to afford. The kitchen table where I eat breakfast every morning. The bedroom with large windows that welcome perfect morning light. This was my home. I'd earned every inch. And I'd be damned if I handed it over to people who thought I didn't deserve it. They could call me selfish, greedy, or old maid. But this house was mine, and it would remain mine. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Mom. I didn't answer. Then Dad called, then Marcus, then Celeste. I ignored them all and prepared for work as though nothing had happened. By lunchtime, I had 12 missed calls and 20 text messages. I finally read them while eating in the break room. Sophia, we need to talk. You're being unreasonable. From Mom. Your brother needs your help. Family comes first. From Dad. Celeste cried all night because of what you said. You're hurting a pregnant woman. From Marcus. I thought you loved me like a sister. I guess I was wrong. From Celeste herself. I deleted every message without responding. They wanted to drown me in guilt, but I refused to play their game anymore. The calls continued for 3 days. Every ring brought another attempt to wear me down. Their voicemails grew increasingly dramatic. Sophia, this is your mother. You're destroying this family with your selfishness. Sophia, it's Dad. I'm disappointed in you. This isn't how we raised you. Sophia, it's Marcus. Celeste's health is suffering because of the stress you're causing. If something happens to the baby, it's on you. That last one ignited genuine anger. Now they were blaming me for potential pregnancy complications, as if my refusal to surrender my home could somehow cause a miscarriage. It was manipulative and repulsive. I showed the messages to my colleague Allison. She's known me for 8 years and understands my family dynamics. Are they serious? She asked, reading Marcus's text about the baby. They're actually trying to guilt trip you with that? Apparently, I sighed. According to them, I'm single-handedly destroying a pregnancy by not giving up my house. That's insane, Allison said firmly. None of this is your fault. I know, I replied, but hearing someone else say it brought unexpected relief. Their messages grew more creative as the week progressed. They sent articles about family loyalty and helping relatives. Mom sent Bible verses about loving your neighbor. Dad sent a story about a woman who gave her house to her sister. This could be you, he wrote beneath the article. You could be the hero of this story. I laughed aloud reading that. Hero. They wanted me to be heroic by surrendering everything I'd worked for. That wasn't heroism, that was foolishness. Celeste's messages were particularly manipulative. She sent ultrasound photos captioned, "Your nephew needs a room. Don't you want him to have a good life?" She even sent pictures of their cramped studio with the caption, "Is this really where you want your family to live?" I wanted to remind her she lived there rent-free, but engaging would only encourage them. By week's end, the messages finally slowed. I thought perhaps they'd accepted my decision. I should have known better. That Friday, I went to work as usual but developed a fever and headache around noon. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I told my boss I needed to leave early. Around 2 in the afternoon, I pulled into my driveway and immediately noticed something wrong. A large moving truck labeled Monty's Moving Service was parked outside my house. My parents' car sat behind it. My heart raced. What were they doing? I used my key to enter my own home and confronted the unbelievable. My parents were inside, packing my belongings. Mom wrapped dishes in newspaper while Dad emptied bookshelves into boxes. "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted. They jumped, guilt flashing across their faces before quickly disappearing. "Oh, Sophia," Mom said casually. "We thought you were at work." "I asked you a question," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "What are you doing in my house?" "We're helping you move," Mom explained as if discussing the weather. "Marcus and Celeste are moving in here, and you're moving to their studio apartment." "I told you I wasn't doing that," I said, voice rising. "I told you repeatedly." "We all decided you don't need this much space," Dad said, not even looking up from packing books. "It's not fair for you to have all this room when they're having a baby." "I don't care what you decided," I said. "This is my house." They continued packing as if I weren't there. Mom folded a sweater and placed it in a box. Dad wrapped a picture frame and added it to his pile. "Stop," I demanded. "Stop packing my things right now." "Sophia, don't make this harder than necessary," Mom sighed. That's when something inside me snapped. I went upstairs to my bedroom and called the police. "I need to report a break-in," I told the dispatcher. "People broke into my house and they're packing up my belongings." "Are you in immediate danger?" she asked. "No, but they're stealing my stuff and won't leave." "We'll send someone right away." The police arrived 5 minutes later. 2 officers came to the door, and I explained the situation. My parents tried passing it off as a misunderstanding. "Officer, this is our daughter," Dad said smoothly. "We're just helping her move." "Did she ask for your help?" the first officer questioned. "Well, no, but..." "Ma'am," the officer turned to me, "did you give them permission to be here?" "Absolutely not," I stated firmly. I told them repeatedly that I'm not moving anywhere. The officers exchanged glances, then addressed my parents. "Sir, ma'am, you need to come with us." "This is ridiculous," Mom shouted. "She's our daughter." "That doesn't give you the right to enter her home without permission," the second officer explained. Mom started screaming, and Dad actually swung at one of the officers. They arrested my parents right there in my living room. I watched them being led away while the moving crew stood around confused. "What about our stuff?" one mover asked. "Put everything back where you found it," I instructed. "And send the bill to whoever hired you." After everyone left, I sat in my kitchen trying to process what had happened. My own parents had broken into my house and attempted to force me out. They genuinely believed they could decide what was best for me and simply make it happen. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Mom, calling from the police station. "Sophia, you need to drop these charges," she demanded. "We're your parents. We were just trying to help." "No," I said quietly. "I'm done with all of you." "You can't be serious," she gasped. "I'm completely serious," I said, and hung up. The next morning, I went to the police station and refused to drop the charges. My parents could face the consequences of their actions. I was finished being their doormat. They made bail that evening. I expected immediate angry calls, but instead received one from my grandmother the following morning. She sounded exhausted. "Sophia, your parents are very upset," she said. "They can't believe you actually had them arrested." "They broke into my house, Grandma," I explained. "They were packing my belongings without permission." I know, she sighed. "And I told them you were right to keep your house. But calling the police on your own parents, that's serious business." What was I supposed to do? Ask them nicely to stop stealing my stuff? I don't know, she admitted. This whole situation is a mess. But you can't let it destroy your family. I didn't destroy anything, I said firmly. They did this themselves. After hanging up with Grandma, I heard nothing for 3 days. The silence was refreshing. No angry calls, no guilt-tripping texts, no demands for my house. Just peace. Then I received a letter in the mail. It was from my mother, written in her careful handwriting on fancy stationery. Sophia, it read, after much thought and discussion with your father and brother, we have decided to disown you. You are no longer our daughter. Your selfish actions have shown us that you care nothing for your family. You chose a house over your own flesh and blood. We will not contact you again, and we do not want you to contact us. It was signed former mother instead of love, Mom. I read it twice, then placed it on my kitchen table. I waited to feel devastated, hurt, or angry, but instead felt something unexpected, relief. Pure relief. They thought this letter would crush me. They imagined me weeping, begging them to reconsider. Instead, I felt liberated. I was finally free from their constant criticism, endless demands, and manipulation. The following weeks were the most peaceful I'd experienced in years. I went to work, returned to my quiet house, and did whatever I pleased. No Sunday dinners, no family drama, no one telling me I was selfish for living my own life. I heard through my grandmother that Marcus and Celeste still occupied the studio apartment. They're managing, she mentioned during one of our calls. The baby's due soon, and they're getting by. What about my parents? I asked. They're considering selling their house and the studio, Grandma explained. They want to use the money for 2 places, one for themselves and one for Marcus and Celeste. They could have done that from the beginning, I pointed out, instead of trying to steal my house. I think they just wanted to take advantage of you, Grandma admitted quietly. They didn't think you'd fight back. Well, they were wrong. I later discovered they'd been planning this for months. They'd convinced themselves I didn't deserve my house because I was single without children. They assumed I'd be too accommodating to refuse, too desperate to maintain family harmony. They were wrong on both counts. The irony is, they could have simply asked for help buying Marcus and Celeste a house. Had they approached respectfully, explained their situation, and requested assistance, I might have considered it. I've always been generous with family. But they didn't want to ask for help. They wanted to take what they believed I didn't deserve. They wanted to punish me for being successful and independent. 6 months later, I heard they'd followed through with their plan. They sold both properties and purchased 2 smaller places. Marcus and Celeste got a 2-bedroom apartment, and my parents bought a condo. Everyone seemed satisfied with their new arrangements. I was happy too. I still lived in my beautiful house, the one I'd worked so hard for. I still had my career and independence, without dealing with people who thought they were entitled to everything I'd earned. Sometimes I miss having family. I miss the idea of Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings. But I don't miss the constant criticism, manipulation, or feeling that nothing I did was ever enough. My life is quieter now, but it's mine. I make my own decisions, spend my own money, and live in my own house. Nobody tells me I'm selfish for succeeding. Nobody demands I surrender hard-earned possessions to those who haven't worked for them. I've learned something vital through this ordeal. Sometimes the people claiming to love you are actually holding you back. Sometimes removing toxic influences is the kindest act of self-preservation. My family thought they were teaching me a lesson by disowning me. They expected me to come crawling back, begging forgiveness and offering my house. Instead, they taught me I'm stronger than I realized. They showed me I don't need their approval to be happy. They proved that choosing myself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And that lesson is worth more than any house. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others who might be standing at the crossroads between family expectations and personal boundaries. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about reclaiming your power when others try to take what's rightfully yours. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is say no to the people we love most.